Okay, that'll work. Never mind, we're good to go there. All right, recording is set up. Let me shoot out a reminder to people.
Hey, your microphone does not sound good anymore.
It doesn't?
No.
Yeah, it got worse.
I feel like I'm calling 1995.
God damn it. Here, let me see. I think I have to switch it in here. Voice and audio. Alright, how's that? Is that better?
It's exactly the same.
Is it exactly the same, really?
Yeah, did you change microphone inputs?
I did. I switched to my AirPods. That way my...
Oh, that's why. AirPods have 2 channels on the input, I think. And one's like a bad quality and one's a better quality.
Is that better?
Yep, that's better.
Whoa, that's so much better.
Okay. Alright, good. Then that works for me. So let's keep that. Appreciate the feedback. Alright, let's get out of there. Alright, let me shoot a quick reminder.
Not sure if it's good because
hello, General.
Hey. Alright. Shout out my reminders. I'm good to go there. Let's see. We've got quite a crowd. Good. I'm glad. There are a few things that I'd like to get some feedback on. Hopefully you guys wouldn't mind throwing them out. I know me and Brink, we've talked on the sidelines. I'm also planning on putting it out. That way more people can contribute to it as well. But basically getting some feedback on primarily trade upgrades, trade tier 1s. Just kind of curious to see what people think about them. I've heard nothing but good things really from most people that I talk to offline that really aren't even hardcore Foxes, if you will, but I think it's just helpful to get opinions from everyone. Our thought now that we've got this Questive software is really to kind of see how we can leverage it, for Foxes. I think it will be monumental in increasing kind of social engagement. And I think it also really helps to add like flexibility into what we can do, not only from an interactive standpoint in social media, but also we're working kind of closely with the team that's developing, I'll say all of Questive, or at least kind of their next piece for it, which has to do with onboarding. So that's probably more alpha than they want me to talk about, but I think that's one of the areas in which Foxes can really benefit, is the onboarding piece for what we have from our collection. Just like when we get new Foxes in, I think the one thing that's really cool with their system that I think will be a huge benefit is that we can kind of have roles that are I'll say assigned out / de-assigned based off of like how much of that you've completed, but we can kind of add to our onboarding in like steps, because we have so much for our project, right? We don't want someone to just sit there and throw a 6-hour seminar at them. I'm just gonna mute myself for... Okay, did you mute yourself? No. Alright. I had to mute you. It was coming through, so I had to mute you. That's okay. You're good. But yeah, so yeah, I'm sorry, I caught up there. But yeah, I think it'll be helpful because we have just so much information. I don't want us to have like a 6-hour seminar for getting people like just integrated into our community. And like the idea of having like levels to it and points, like someone can quickly jump in, and if someone asks a question about like, how much does FoxySwap cost, or do we get passive income or whatever, people can go in and quickly see that they have like a role or they don't have a role for like how much of that onboarding they've completed, and then they can say, okay, jump back into the Questive module wherever we put it at, and complete up to part 3 or part 4 or whatever. And I think that'll be helpful, within our community, just because we have so much that we offer as a project, compared to, I would say, every other Solana or really any other NFT project that exists out there. So we're kind of just dipping our feet in the Questive pool, if you will, for right now. And I will apologize. The one that we pushed out in the announcement will get modified because it does have a wrong for Famous Foxes. The nice thing with their tool, I don't know if anybody is familiar with Questive or not, but really you can put in like whatever metrics you want over a period of time, and it pulls all that data in from Twitter. And so it doesn't even have to be folks that are like logged in, connected, and all that fun stuff that we can at least pick winners from. The benefit that you get is that when you have your wallet and such connected to Questive, we can just airdrop tokens directly from their tool. So anyone that doesn't actually go through and like connect their wallet in there, even if you complete like the steps to it, we most likely won't be able to award the reward for it. So that's the one thing that I will say, and I know we'll give more information out about that as we kind of go through. This is our first one, so it's not going to be perfect. It's already been less than perfect. But I think it'll be helpful. I think this is one of the things that we it's kind of been like one of the bigger areas that we've seen, I'll say, that we can improve on for sure, is kind of the social engagement and awareness side that we can leverage our community to help us out with. So I want to throw that out there. I'd be really kind of curious. I don't know, for people that have already tested it out, if you have any opinions. I'll kind of open the floor up, but if there aren't really any initially, I also don't mind like later on if people want to jump in too. But I'm hopeful that it will kind of spark a little extra engagement within the community. But hearing none, let me just jump back. I know I like to kind of at least do a little bit of a rundown, because sometimes it'll give a little bit of a refresher for folks, about the updates and such that we've gone on throughout the week. So the one cool thing within this week, at least since I'll say last Sunday, is that we've done 2 like hypometer tasks, and I think that's another point that we can kind of leverage Questive for. Is we just have different ways now of us being able to track kind of progress on these different campaigns that I think we've really always wanted a tool like Questive to kind of be able to do that for Hypometer, but nothing really had kind of seemed to fit for what we needed it for that was out and I would say reasonably priced. So having said that, I just closed out yesterday the second Hypometer milestone. So that was for the Xeno piece, and then we did 3 chests for I'll say like second, third, and fourth place, if you will. And then we started up the milestone 3 with the current Questive that's out there. So for anyone that hasn't seen or isn't familiar with the current campaign that we're doing for Hypometer milestone 3, the one thing that I didn't mention in there is it is a 5-day campaign, so I opened it up today for like noon. It runs until, I believe it's Thursday at noon. I think it's the 25th. Yeah, 25th, Thursday at noon. And basically it's just about really showcasing like your rewards from missions. So there's a hashtag, it's hashtag FFF missions. And then if you just @ Famous Fox Fed in the same tweet, their system will kind of pull all of those tweets into it. And then we're giving everybody that does it 750 Foxy. I wanted to give like a fame token that's 250 fame that you can just go and claim. We didn't have time to create those individual fame tokens. We only have the 1,000 fame tokens, and not that I don't want to give everyone 1,000 fame. I think it just made sense for us to be able to give out like the Foxy, at least in this particular instance. But everyone that completes that will get 750 Foxy. That's good for about 250 fame. if you wanted to buy fame at the current levels underneath tier 1. And again, this is us kind of just testing the waters with using Questive and kind of integrating it in with our hypometer. So I think we'll find ways of kind of leveraging the platform. We can create like manual tasks where you might have to take a picture of a thing and upload a transaction, as an example of like sending a ding or doing a Foxy swap or whatever, kind of like using our tools or just different ways we can kind of like showcase that out in a social presence, which I think would kind of be super helpful for just letting people know that like certain tools do exist out there, as there still are times where people ask to do a certain thing and there's always poor foxes out there, which I really appreciate you guys shilling us. They're like, oh, you can do that with foxes. Or someone comes up with like this whole project around an idea that we already have, that we've had for forever. So I think that social engagement and reach will certainly kind of help the project in the long run. But yeah, that's enough with Hypometer and Questive, and I welcome any and all feedback too. So even if people don't want to speak up in here, if you want to DM me something, even in chat and ping me, I'm perfectly cool with that too. I don't mind deep diving into certain topics, or if people want to chat one-on-one off the side, that sounds good to me too. Jumping into quality of life updates from Wednesday. Background update went live this week. So that costs 5,000 Foxy. The way to get to it, for those that aren't familiar, if you go into My Foxes, there is the option where it shows the metadata for the individual Fox, where it shows a little like pencil and pen and paper icon for you to like modify, that traditional like edit icon. So if you click on that, then it gives you the options you can pick through. You can buy as many as you like. They each cost 5,000 Foxy, so just kind of keep that in mind. But the one you select will kind of pick it as the current default. Keynotes are that it doesn't impact rarity, so that was kind of like a slight measure difference between rarities for Foxes, but I mean it's a background color, so it really shouldn't have that much of an impact at all. Realistically on rarity, so that's worth saying. Purely cosmetic, I think it goes without say, and it's just currently it's just our default background colors that you can kind of swap between. So I think it's pretty cool, and certainly it's been fun kind of seeing what people think about like background colors, and kind of like throwing that all around and getting opinions from other people too within the space. I think it's quite fun to kind of see that those opinions on what they think are like either the best background colors or like complementary, or for upgraded Foxes, like which ones kind of fit best, which I think is kind of cool. We did add in the previews as well for the tier 1s. It does add a Foxy coin watermark on it, so for those of you that have seen that on Twitter, that's exactly what that is. If you just go to your Fox, again in your My Foxes section, you can click on the little eye. It looks like an eye icon that's to the right of the unlock for the trait upgrades and trait tiers, and that will show you the tier 1 for it, and it'll put that watermark on it automatically. And you can toggle back and forth between both, one or the other, just to kind of get a look for what they would look like on your Fox as a final, which I think is pretty awesome. And we did update the missions UI to add in that Borrow Fox button, which will go directly to Foxy Lens. Been super helpful. I've actually seen a lot of people provide good feedback on that today. So, and the one thing that I won't say to Foxy Dev, but I thought it was quite hilarious, is because when he first set up Foxy Lens, like the idea was for it to not just be for individual Foxes, because if there's like a solo mission that Foxes could go on, like in theory that person should just put that Fox on that mission, and I know people were renting out their Foxes up front. But I saw someone had rented like 3 Foxes for a trio mission, which I think is kind of the same idea, which I found kind of hilarious. So I'll have to talk to Foxy Devil on the side. I am all for it in either case, actually. Like, I think if people want to rent out a solo fox, as like a hedge for whatever someone's going to get from a treasure chest, I think that's perfectly fine too. So I think that's just one thing that we'll have to talk about to figure out what doesn't make sense with Foxy Len. The rates are all determined by you guys. We don't have any say in how that goes down. So if people want to rent solo foxes out for solo missions, I don't really see why there would be a problem with it. Because it's no different than renting 2 foxes for a duo or 3 foxes for a trio. It's just the fact that you can do it if you want to, which I am all for. But yeah, those were the quality of life updates. The missions that went live today. So we had Spectacles level 20, Centurion level 20, and Centurion Den. And then for our duo/trio, 2 Astronaut level 22 plus and Fasadin. Then we had our 2 hoodies level 20 plus, 3 tank tops level 20 plus, and then 2 beards or stashes level 22 plus, and a beard den. And we did throw out the 0 fame-only missions. I do know there were some people, too, that were talking, I remember if it was in Alpha or Federation, about being able to basically run multiple fame-only missions in Walt. We are working on that. I know I mentioned it there, too, but it's worth saying in our VC that we are working so that way people don't have to transfer NFTs from wallet to wallet, just to get more foxes, staked into our missions. I think that's been probably one of the bigger headaches, at least for myself, having participated in missions more recently, also on the heavier side than I have in the past. But yeah, definitely hear you, and it's definitely something in the pipeline. We just have other things from Roadmap 2.0 that are being focused on right now. But that is one of the higher priorities, I'll say. We had Fame, the Hypometer round 2 that came in and went out. So that started on Wednesday. That finished up yesterday, like I had mentioned. And that was for basically showing off your Tier 1 upgrades. So with the hashtag FFFFresh, or FFFresh, and like I mentioned, 1 person got the Xeno Skeleton Crew airdrop, and 3 people got treasure chests. And then we also added in Fame Suck, so it's really a Fame transfer, but that's for people to be able to transfer Fame from one fox to another. And it's for non-Tier 1 foxes currently, and there is a 20% penalty that's associated for those foxes. So for the fox that is really the amount of Fame just gets reduced by 20% when it's sent from fox to fox. There have been low-key questions around the experience levels and scales and such. I believe I don't remember who it was. They might even be in here, but someone had created an Excel sheet or Google sheet that you could go through and check out the level that you need, the level that you are, and the difference between them. The other thing you can do as well, if you are curious, I know we probably should post it in a more legitimate fashion for our project, but you could always pop into and look up the RuneScape experience chart. It's a very detailed, thorough, old school, classic way that RuneScape's always had their experience and level set up. So you could jump in there and check it out. But it does, the scale on there basically, I think it gets to a certain point where the next level is 10% more experience than the previous level, but it grows quite quickly. And so I was kind of looking at it and telling my wife, to get from level 1 to 40, I think it's 40,000 experience, something like that, but to get from 40 to 80, it's 1.9 million experience. So it's completely a crazy scale to it, and that's why hopefully everyone's seen too, as we're kind of adding in these level gated missions, the Fame for it has been increasing to it, as it will. So the main objective isn't to have everyone spend all of the last money that you have buying Foxy from the market to level up your foxes. We will be adding in, higher levels of fame. And the more we get involved too with these quests for questive and social engagement and just ways we can kind of drive, more traffic or eyes really to our project, we will kind of be rewarding people for that as well, all along the way. So it'll kind of be a little bit more staking in with missions, being a little bit more bit of active on the engagement side, and kind of a combination of the two to help, grind foxes to like higher levels. Because once we kind of open the floodgates, I'll say, not necessarily completely open them, but higher than level 40 for people to be able to buy fame for it, I know that people are going to be like, why am I going to spend, 3 million Foxy to try and level up to like level 80 or whatever, and that's not the intention that we want people to kind of see it for. It's meant to kind of be a little bit of a grind. It's not meant to be kind of like how the DGods model is, where you spend 1,000 dust and you upgrade or transcend your DGod to a dead god. We've got a completely different model to it, and it's meant to kind of be a bit more of an achievement than anything else. So just want to throw that out there. But the fame transfer is live. I think it went live early-ish yesterday, I believe. And so so people, I think, we're trying to figure out how they can optimize their fame transfer. As I know with TFFs, it's certainly a grind to get levels up for them, so definitely something worth considering. Let's see, closed out season 2, milestone 2. Sent out prizes. Everyone's been paid up for our second season 2 hypometer task. And I guess the updates for today. So for those of you that hadn't seen, there were like some messages back and forth or not messages, but tweets that went out about FoxySwap and the ability, or FoxySwap or Send, or I think it was a little bit of both. I think primarily around FoxySwap for the way that like collections are listed on there, and for you to be able to search through and select the NFT, especially for folks that have like huge wallets. I think that was like the primary mention. And so Dev went through and added in collection names for the filtering side and being able to search through it as well. I don't think anyone else has the search option, which I think is pretty sweet. So we're kind of first to market with that. And then we've added in the token names and images from the metadata and TMI, just to be a little bit more helpful for folks to make sure you don't burn something that is like legit for TMI. I know it's been a concern from some people. I did think it was kind of cool recently. I think it was Phantom that had put in the ability for you to burn NFTs or incinerate NFTs as well from your wallet, and they don't incinerate NFTs that are considered collections listed on Magic Eden. However, there are still other tokens, as an example, like our chests. Anything that's a 0 decimal token that is like legit for a project has the potential for you to be able to burn it, because it's not technically a verified collection on Magic Eden. So just for us as a project, just be careful when you use that to kind of burn NFTs. You have a chance to mess something up there. TMI is free, so just want to throw that out there for Foxes. All right, let's see. All right, I'm getting feedback a little bit. Sorry, Ryota, I'm going to mute you real quick. All right, perfect. Let's see here. And I'm not sure if is that bothering anyone else? I'm not sure if I muted it for everybody else, or is there still feedback?
I got a
No,
question.
you muted him.
Okay. Cool. Question?
Yeah, so I didn't, just to clarify, are you saying like Foxy now has an incinerator? Like, I know there's the So incinerator, so do we have our own, or what? Can you detail a little more about that, please?
Sure. Yeah. So in TMI, so our token management interface. So if you go under our tools section, let me just jump in here real quick. Under our utility section, there's TMI in there. It's the very bottom one. That's specifically around managing tokens. So all of these like scam NFTs that get sent out, really they're sending out 0 decimal tokens. So you can still burn those off and get like the 0.002 Sol worth of rent for each of those through our TMI tool. We basically, with that update in there, it now shows like the picture and such, so that way you don't get confused between like one thing and another. And you could also like close out like old token accounts for anyone that was in like Samo or Bamboo or any of those other like old, I'll say old, but I mean like last year's like shitcoin tokens.
What do you mean was in?
What's that?
Some of us are still in Samo. Be respectful.
So sorry about that to my Samo investor Foxes. But yeah, so within that tool itself, though, for tokens, you can incinerate them and get that rent back. So it's not like NFTs that have rugged and like you want to get rid of those. You still would have to use like the Phantom incinerator, or if you want to use the incinerator that I'm trying to think of the name of the project out there that has it. But yeah, if it's a token specific, so a lot of these scam things, they get sent out as tokens. They primarily do it because they don't want to they don't want to pay like the actual Sol rent for housing an NFT. They just do it via a token, and all you have to do is open up a token account. So when you close that out, you get that rent, which is like 0.002 something Sol. So like the ones that we keep seeing popping up, but like that Foxy Flame and that Foxy Crystal, that was like totally didn't look anything like our art. Those ones you can burn using TMI, if that makes sense. And feel free to follow up with any question that you have, because that might have been confusing to some people.
No, that answered my question perfectly. Appreciate it, mate.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. And I'll take a little bit of responsibility too. When I think it was the first one, when the crystal first came out, like I was telling people like you could use, the Sol incinerator for those, not realizing that they were actually tokens, because that's just the cheaper way for people to do it. But yeah, TMI does work for all tokens, and you can close accounts and all that fun stuff by using TMI too, which is nice and convenient. Let's see, the last item on here, I mean, because we already talked a bit about Hypermeter Round 3, but our one-of-one auction for this week is done by none other than Pico Pops. That's been one that I've been quite excited about, as I am a Pico Pops holder and supporter. Huge fan of just the style. Definitely captures, Foxes as they are. Alpha, not alpha, but don't be surprised if by chance, there's a little bit of resemblance with this to something else we have with our original collection. So I'll throw that out there as some non-alpha, but yeah, I think it's fantastic. I'm curious to see what it goes for. I know people have been talking about some crazy numbers in our alpha chat, but certainly worth it, and a pretty sweet art style, if I say so myself. So pretty excited about that. But I mean, that's been everything that we've thrown out this week. Like I mentioned, I think the questive piece, the interactive side for social engagement, I think will be kind of huge for us. To kind of leverage a bit more. And the onboarding piece, once we kind of get something like that integrated in, I think that will also be super, super helpful for, especially for new people coming into our community. We kind of see new folks join us all the time, but we've had a lot of fun stuff go on this week. I guess I might as well kind of address it too for everyone or anyone that's been involved with the whole raffle shenanigans that went on this week. There was like a lot of issues that were kind of going on between a few accounts, and I thought it was actually quite comical because I mentioned via like DM with our customer support Fox, Tiv or Olivia, however you guys prefer to approach them, but I mentioned that we were going to do the flagging for those accounts, and it was really funny because like basically as soon as like one of the accounts like popped on, like all 6 of them popped on, And it was just a really big deal because it really wasn't for a lot of money or anything like that. It was just like constant like little things, but like it becomes a bigger issue because it starts to impact people that are genuinely using the platform itself, compared to just like the other scammy bullshit things that have been going on. And so it just got to a point where we had enough evidence to like kind of crack down on it. I know that it did kind of take a bit longer than probably what it should have, but it's just really tricky with blockchain and people being like very tricky with how they go about trying to conceal themselves. We want to make sure that we don't kind of overstep our boundaries with the way that we approach it. And I know it's not a perfect tool. If anything, I'd consider Raffle probably the most interesting social experiment that we have for Foxes. But the good thing is that it does still provide value for other communities and such, for folks to be able to utilize their token and raffles and hopefully their own collections and such, if they're eligible to be added onto the platform. But I've just gotten a lot of good feedback for other people, and that's the reason why we still keep it. And it's also worth mentioning too that we've officially kind of partnered up with Hello Moon this week. We just have to finish signing up a contract with them, but they'll kind of be like our main source for really kind of connecting these wallets that are associated with each other in order for us to kind of level up the way that we're kind of adding security to our platform. It's not going to be perfect. I think that's the one thing that's important, is because there's always going to be ways around whatever we create. So there is definitely still going to be a little bit of a manual presence to kind of going through and making sure things are legit, or as legit as they can be. So we'll still have like the flagging feature and all that kind of fun stuff for people to report and such. I know Raffles isn't for everybody, but I know people, certainly have been having fun with it. So I just want to kind of throw that out there too, or if people have any questions or any comments or suggestions, I'm definitely here to kind of take them in as well. And I think those are kind of like the biggest items that really we have going on right now for Foxes. So, and I might as well too throw it out there for feedback on us adding Soul into our chest rewards. We did that midweek, I believe was midweek that we added that in there. Last week, the end of last week. But it's been one of those things where, we recognize that, we've been putting in like larger prizes. We've had, orange box and golden box. But, due to like the volatility of those, sometimes if we buy something at 5 or 10 Soul and someone doesn't want it when they win, an orange box or a golden box, then it could just sit there and literally just have kind of the premium value of it kind of eaten away. Because we're not gods when it comes down to picking, what collections are going to pump or stay the same, even for a week, 2 weeks, what have you. And so just to kind of eliminate that volatility and making sure we're kind of giving back to our community, the value that we are hoping to give back. We decided to add Soul into the chests. Yesterday was the first test of that. It actually was the largest amount of Foxes, so I think Dev sent me over a stat on Thursday that said I think we had 4,137 Foxes in missions last week, so certainly was a little bit of a stress test for us for the way that we had set up the rewards for this week. But got to see a lot of good prizes out there, and a lot of people tweeting about it even prior to us throwing out milestone 3 for the hypometer, and it's exciting to me. I like kind of seeing that a lot of people are getting a little bit of something back, versus like maybe one person, and if that person's kind of like on the lowdown, doesn't really want to kind of share that because they don't want people to know that they had won, or that Foxes have like a decent kind of benefit system to them. They'd rather just complain about it on Twitter. I think it's just one of the more fun things that we've done recently to kind of showcase, what the Foxes kind of give back. And I do find it funny too, everyone that comments on it being, passive income and holder benefits and all that kind of fun stuff, because I mean that's kind of the meme at this point in my opinion. But I'm I'm always open for feedback on what folks think of that. I think so far seems pretty positive. I think I know a few people that have won 5-10 Sol. They might just buy a couple of TFFs to kind of add to their portfolio to increase their chances even more, which is kind of a little bit of the idea there. But
Got a question again.
Yeah, sure.
I feel like I might have asked it before, but like, have you guys ever like considered an item that could like turn a regular chest into like a rare chest, or have you thought about an item that would like boost your odds for that certain chest? So I believe, for instance, some of the soul was like a 0.28 or 2.8% chance of getting it. Would it be an item that would, not necessarily like 5 or 10x, but even just double, your chances of getting those rare items versus just Foxy? Or would it just like increase, for instance, like if you get a Foxy item, right, then next week when you get your rewards, it like just gives you more Fox?
Yeah, that's well, it's interesting to hear about it that way. I know when we talked about it before, I don't know how easy that may or may not be to do on chain for increasing the odds for kind of the rewards that you have. I think when we talked about it before, I think you had mentioned a time value to it, right? So like it increases your odds for, let's say, like 15 minutes or 30 minutes or something like that. And then our thought too was the possibility of somebody kind of gaming it, and one person that has that reward and 50 people send all their chests to that person, and they go on a spamming spree to see if they could get whatever kind of value and split it out amongst people. I think that would be kind of the challenging from an exploit side, but I do think that it is kind of challenging to do it that way as well. I think the one thing that we'll see in the not so distant future will kind of be like one use items, primarily around I don't know if we'll have it initially set up for being able to send foxes on trait-specific missions if they don't have that trait with like a burnable item. So like as an example, like an astronaut suit or something like that you could burn as a one-time use to send a fox that doesn't have astro to it onto a mission. I think we'd have to also figure out how that would work with the possibility of raids. And the last thing I want to do too is make things more complicated for Dev as a total, because he's been an absolute beast, shipping everything that he's been shipping. But I think that those are pretty cool concepts, and I think too, the more kinds of items and things like that, we can kind of drive a little bit of value to like those as rewards too from the chests. So, we could not only add those to chests, it would reduce the amount of Foxy that people would get. You start getting these kind of usable items, and then there could be a market, for those usable items from any one week to another, which I think would be pretty helpful as well for missions as a whole. And to your point too, like depending on how complicated it is, if we are able to implement that for raids, then really it is kind of the same thing for possibly being able to burn an item to be able to go onto a raid, and then you'll get a rare chest versus a regular chest, if that's kind of was the differentiation between missions for that specific week for you. So no promises on that specifically, but that is something that we are starting to talk about and look into how easy, and I'm going to use air quotes there, of an integration that is into the platform that we've created.
Nice. Thanks for answering. I definitely, obviously, my vote doesn't have much weight to it, but I would definitely vote for that. You know how you mentioned the little trait thing? So it's like, you get that from a chest, and then, you can even make it a little ditto, for all the monster trainer maxis out there. But, the ditto let you go on any raid, kind of like how the one fox is. Or like the den, the orange room lets you do any den mission. So I definitely think those one-time uses would be a nice implication.
Yeah, I think so too. I think too it would be helpful because the one thing that we're starting to see, I mean, obviously as a trend, right, is with dens as an example. Um, I think I have to look at the actual numbers for it. I don't think it's actually true that every den can have a unique room to them based off of the current number of rooms that are possible from a unique standpoint. But nonetheless, there are enough rooms that exist 100% to be able to fill up all the dens. So once dens all have the maximum amount of rooms, then what kind of value do rooms themselves have after that? And so that's one of the things that we're starting to kind of look into a little bit more for figuring out, I'll say like that burning mechanic, to kind of be able to leverage that a little bit more within the system that we've built for missions. So yeah, no, I think I like the one-time use items as well. I think it just kind of creates, its own like fuel for an ecosystem versus like everybody can do everything. So I think there'll be kind of benefits for us kind of creating that in whatever capacity we can and adding it into our missions. But we're gonna try some shit. Is that your marketing for Suck, Brink?
He said it. He said it.
Suck.
You're such a nut. Are you trying to get Dev to add that to the I don't even know what it's considered, the
Can you
command.
hear that? Because I can't hear it. I
Yeah.
assume it's playing.
Yeah, we can hear it. And it's annoying.
Okay, you can. This is?
Suck.
Yeah, the
Suck.
I'm gonna server
Okay,
mute Brink. But no, and I I was just checking out too. It looks like there's other people that have Samo in their portfolio, so I apologize. I had it for like half a second and got rid of that because BSC shitcoin vibes for sure. But yeah, let me poke through our channels. I'll open it up to kind of questions. I know I've been going on for coming up on 45 minutes. If anybody else has any other questions. No, I'm not telling Brink to do the suck thing again.
I got a question.
Sure, go ahead, Donnie.
Have you guys ever thought about like making a random wheel? You know, like you spin Foxy or something, and you get a spin at the wheel. You know?
Yeah, I think we might have talked about that before in a VC. So we have been talking recently around, what other kind of what's the best. How did I phrase this, Brink? I thought I phrased it pretty appropriately. Let me see what I called it. All right, a degenerate attention retention program game thing, however you want to call it, because there was something that popped out somewhere on Twitter that just kind of sparked the idea of what else would people be like interested or engaged in like playing, doing. Not necessarily like a full-blown like AAA game or anything along those lines, but something that's just like fun. So like I threw out like pachinko for anyone that's familiar with pachinko machines, but on-chain would be an absolute nightmare. Spin the wheel to win. I mean, I think it would be interesting. I guess from like a high level view, if you were to do a wheel thing, I mean, we most likely would implement different tokens because I'm sure other people would also be interested in doing it. Would prizes that are on it, like, should there always be prizes on things? Should it kind of be like Wheel of Fortune where like there are like bankrupt / like no kind of rewards for different slices? Like I guess part of the thing that I wonder is because I've seen from like other projects and things where they have, even if you're paying in like 0.3 Sol or something to like spin a wheel, I mean, getting nothing from it, I think, is kind of a bummer. Obviously, it's the same thing with Flip, where it's 50-50 chance at that. But I mean, for us to create something else that could be a little bit more on like the entertaining side, would no reward win upset people, I guess. Yeah, we were talking about doing something like that too, like a PvP thing. For the duel that you're suggesting there, are you thinking, is it a duel of chance or a duel of skill? I want royalties. Chance, yeah, so something like a coin flip, right? And one person calls head, one person calls tails. Or like a rock, paper, scissors. I guess all that could be kind of well, yeah, but RuneScape Duel Arenas, I would actually counteract. I would say that, or not counteract, but I would counterpoint that I think that was more so skills. I said the question. Oh, yeah, the question was around like creating a degenerate attention retention thing. Some kind of a game, some kind of a something. People were suggesting a wheel that you could spin for something. An item in chess that lets you be Dev for a day. That'd be hilarious. Dev wouldn't like it. But yeah, I mean, you know, feel free. I mean, if people want to spitball ideas, probably can make like a thread or something on top of Alpha. I wouldn't be against creating a thread around like some kind of fun degenerate game idea. I don't know how many people would be in for like a PvP thing. You know, there was another project that was talking about doing PvP. But the weird part about their PvP, and you'd have to set up something that made sense where like there's some kind of a delta in like floor price. You shouldn't be able to stake, let's say like a TFF for an FFF, right? Or like a TFF for like a SMB or something. Wouldn't make sense because one person's taking so much more risk on compared to the other. So there has to be like some kind of mechanic built in for that to a degree. And then also we'd have to figure out if you are staking like an NFT for an NFT, there should be some kind of a take on the creator side, whatever that would look like. So I don't know if you prefer Olivia. I'll just call you Olivia. Olivia mentioned in Alpha Chat, idea was basically just like an idle fighter where your NFTs just smack each other to death. So like five simulated random attacks. I think that'd be hilarious. It's just like a square block that just like does something. Although I think Olivia, I don't know, have you seen Knifefork Spoon? I think they have like the way their game's set up. There's more mechanics to it than just an idle fighter, but that could be something from like an animation standpoint or such that might be able to work, or something like that. I've got sentries moving, which is cool. I only have 2 of those, but I mean, is it not? You can call Tiv or Olivia. I don't know. They changed their name to Olivia, so, or at least orange circle, and then Olivia. Or should I just refer to everyone as Nanaman? Nanaman? I did that for Briggs. Thanks, Frank. But yeah, I mean, I know I'm not too far off of an hour. You know, certainly feel free to throw feedback wherever you'd like. Ping me. I'm not like Dev. You can call me anything. That's fine, Olivia. But yeah, feel free to ping me for like suggestions and things, and maybe we'll set up a thread on NFT Alpha for some kind of a, you know, fun game type thing, that could be a Foxy burn, some kind of rewards or something to it as well. That we just have to kind of figure out if it's able to be created on chain, if people would have fun with it. No idea. I mean, that's what we're really here for, right? We're kind of explorers of the unknown and creating, the pocket knife or utility knife for the whole Solana ecosystem, really, of tools. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, that I have to follow up on. All right. I was just going to call it there. I was going to say, if there are no other comments, I appreciate everyone coming out for our VC. Like I said, too, in chat, I did record this, so in the next 3 to 15 years, I'll get it posted up on YouTube as well, especially for folks that weren't able to attend. I think I still have one other recording that's off of Twitter that I also have to put up on YouTube. So I apologize. Things have just been kind of chaotic, so I will work and do my best to get that up there. But yeah, in the meantime, like I mentioned, feel free to reach out with any comments, suggestions, questions, and keep an eye out too for that thread that we throw up on our alpha chat. So I appreciate everyone for coming out, and hopefully everyone's having a good time with missions. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you guys in Discord.
Suck it, like, before you go,